Hello, thank you for joining me. I'm Travis Past with Kwansei Gakuin University, and I'd like to share with you today a bit of action research that my colleagues and I did in our business English classes at our university. So let's get started. The world is in crisis. War, disease, billions living in poverty, the ever-increasing income gap, access to health care, gender equality, intense natural disasters, depletion of resources, the ever-looming threat of climate change. No, there's no shortage of issues that need to be tackled head-on. However, inherent in each of these threats is a challenge and opportunity for growth. In recent years, nations, as well as companies around the globe, have joined together to address these dilemmas and take responsibility for the impact they have on the Earth. In 2015, the United Nations introduced the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development that highlighted 17 Sustainable Development Goals to be achieved by 2030. While no problem has been solved, progress has been made in many of these areas. As educators, we have a great opportunity to help raise up future generations to be knowledgeable in these issues and push for sustainable development. While sustainability can be covered in most any course, business English classes provide a unique chance to prepare students to be informed on the SDGs and able to contribute to them in the international business world. These threats are global, and a worldwide response is necessary. Thus, English as a lingua franca, the most used language in international business, is essential for people from various backgrounds to come together and meet the SDGs. As the global business world increases its focus on SDGs, business English teachers should follow suit and give students the knowledge and language skills necessary to participate. Hello again, so I'm Travis, and I'd like to share with you a new curriculum that we piloted that utilizes case studies with a focus on social responsibility and sustainable development in our business English courses. So here's an overview, an outline of what we'll share today. And let's begin with just a little background on business English. So with the rise and dominance of globalism in the late 20th century, English has become the de facto language for international business. Accordingly, as early as the 1980s, the field of English for specific purposes for businesses gained great interest in the greater ESP community and around the world as businesses sought to expand and their influence on the international stage. Boyd early on defines the goal of a business English course as the development of communicative competence for business settings by fostering grammatical, sociolinguistic, discourse, and strategic competence. This relatively early definition equates successful business communication to mostly linguistic knowledge and ability. Now, however, in the years since, Nickerson has pointed out that two trends have become especially important and showing that there's been a shift in ESB research from teaching isolated words and phrases to more of a stronger emphasis on cultural factors and language strategy. She also highlights the importance of the four major genres of negotiation, meetings, emails, business letters, etc., and how they relate with these different cultural factors. So there's been a change of trying to sound like a native speaker to accepting that English is a lingua franca for business, and these factors here are perhaps more important than just the words that you use. Ever since this paradigm shift in ESPB research, there's been a gap between research findings and pedagogy. One thing that's important to note is English for specific purposes works best when there is a specific or clear purpose. However, one issue with university students and business English classes is that many don't have a very clear purpose yet. They don't have that specific job. Maybe they have an idea of what they want to do, but many are still considering and doing job hunting. This leads to class content being very broad, right? This means that English textbooks are also created for the widest possible audience, while successful business communication, on the other hand, is very context specific, so materials should reflect the language and communication strategies used in those specific contexts. Therefore, students become maybe bored and disinterested in the topics. Now, our program in particular has a couple issues. Our business English, career English class, as it's called, is targeted to third-year university students who are doing job hunting. It's 2 semesters long. However, most students can complete their required English credits in the first semester. So that creates the problem of where many students don't continue with the second fall semester. And this leads that the number of students in the first spring semester are around a group of 25 to 30, so very large classes. And then in the fall second semester, there could be as few as 3, usually between 3 and 10 students per class. Now, what happened, or what we found when I inherited this program, is that the second semester for this business English class was really underdeveloped, and there wasn't a clear plan or clear goals. So what my colleagues and I were trying to figure out is what can we do to engage students in a meaningful way while fostering their ability to communicate successfully in international business setting. What we came up with was case studies. We felt that teachers should create activities that connect with the real world outside of the classroom. And case studies, just a little background here, have been used as a pedagogical practice for a long time in different fields like law, business, education. And just briefly, students try to solve some problem by applying a theory in practice. For business, they would find a problem at a firm or a company, suggest a course of action, and then present a solution and justify it. So that's kind of the simple version there. In the EFL classroom, case studies can be used as a form of task-based learning, which allows teachers to implement a communicative approach where the focus is on completing the task, and students use language as a tool to complete that task. So there's less emphasis on formal drills and language exercises and more on just completing that task. To find a solution to the problem of the case, students must rely on things like their linguistic skills, of course, analytical skills, interpersonal skills, and here, exercises should focus on things like communication, negotiation, vocabulary, grammar, discourse patterns, and business correspondence. And then, of course, finally, the problem-solving case discussion. Roel outlines some case study steps that could be followed in class, starting with the teacher introducing a situation and the relevant vocabulary, and then everyone together reading the case and analyzing additional materials. Students then can discuss possible solutions in groups, and then they present and justify their solutions to the larger group. Everyone participates in a kind of feedback session and discussion where they talk about solutions, what works best, and then students can reflect on the case study and the procedure. A little bit of research on using case studies in EFL classrooms. Elmargo Esteba and Perez Canado found that the following benefits. Case studies are good for fostering communication skills, listening, synthesizing information, and inferencing. Peach also notes that it builds things like teamwork, problem solving, critical thinking, and personal beliefs. Also, using case studies can have a positive impact on motivation and a general learning experience overall. However, it's not without its challenges. Authentic case studies can be difficult to use as they require a fairly high linguistic level. Materials would then need to be adapted to maybe meet the levels of your students. And sometimes it's difficult to find pre-written studies or these cases out in the wild. However, one readily available and adaptable focus for a case study is corporate social responsibility. This is because, this quote here, every time you spend money, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want, right? Consumers are becoming more conscious of where their money goes. And in response to that, company websites have entire pages, PDFs, and fully accessible reports of corporate social responsibility, ESG, that's environmental social governance, and SDGs, as you can see here. And of course, even the most sustainable companies have areas where they can grow. We believe that asking students to identify these areas really helps in building their awareness of global issues, their critical thinking skills, and it helps them consider their own values and beliefs. And again, where voting with their money, right? Where are they voting for? Their consumption habits, all while simultaneously fostering their ability to use business English. So the course that we came up with using these case studies can be divided into three case study projects. The first one was like a sample case study that was a teacher-provided study from like a local business with easy to identify issues. The main goal here was just to introduce the method and get students to use it, use vocabulary, concepts, and just participate in the class. Next, the students would then complete their own part-time job case study. Students work in partners or in small groups, and the case is based on a work experience. So maybe one of their part-time jobs or a friend's experience. They apply what they learned from the first case study and showing that they understand that. Then finally, the third and largest project was that CSR case study, where students choose a large international company, research their CSR policies, and propose new policies or improvements that align closely with the SDGs. Each of those case studies was separated over a course of weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes 5, maybe in the last one. And each week had these kinds of activities here. So in week 1, we'd gather information on the business, try to read authentic texts, identify problems. In the second week, we would write business emails, hold interviews, conduct surveys. In week 3, if there was any materials that were in another language that we wanted to translate to English, they did SWOT analysis, which I'll show you an example of later. Find their solutions, and then finally, in week 4, they would work on and give their presentation and lead a discussion. For the sake of time, I'm going to kind of skip over that first project that was teacher generated. Just know that it was with the purpose of teaching the method, the case study method. And we're going to look more at the second and third projects. So the second project was that student generated a case study where students research and create case studies based on their interests and experiences. The goals were to demonstrate their understanding of the case study, to practice the method, to think critically about issues in their own life experience, and to connect to the outside community, and of course to practice their language skills. Let's take a look at some examples of what students did. This student did her part-time job at a pizza restaurant. I was mentioning SWOT analysis. That stands for strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat, a commonly used form of analysis that looks at the internal and external factors of a business and the things it does well in areas for growth. So they do their analysis. Here's another SWOT analysis of a different student, different restaurant that they were working at. Finally, after they can finish their SWOT analysis, they think of, in addition to their research, they come up with solutions and present that to the class as a whole, and then the class can judge and discuss and determine if it's a good solution or not. Then finally, the third case study is where we wanted to really connect these studies to CSR, corporate social responsibility, and the Sustainable Development Goals. The project was to research a larger international business to evaluate their CSR policies and identify any weaknesses or outside threats, and then design and recommend new policies that align with the UN's SDGs. And as I mentioned earlier, I think this is a really good fit because no company is perfect in this area, in this regard, so there's always room for growth and innovation. Furthermore, in the past few years, there's been an increased awareness of SDGs among the general population. In Japan, I know specifically, but I think around the world. NHK, the National Broadcasting Corporation, has gone so far as even creating SDG characters and even a theme song and video that regularly airs on TV. And so there is an awareness of these SDGs. Let's learn together. Let's spread awareness. That kind of thing. So building on that knowledge and then introducing it in class formally, we would introduce some examples of a company that's working with SDGs and discuss together on what they can do to improve and further innovate their policies. From there, students had freedom to look and find their own company that they're interested in, research their policies, what is being done, and then finally finding some areas where they can improve even more, and recommending some new policies. How does it work and why? So some students were focusing on environmental issues, others were more interested in inequalities, health, and work conditions, that kind of thing. And then finally introducing some ideas for what to implement. So that was a pretty rushed overview of the course, semester, and the framework from which we were building on. I would like to share with you some results. We are still very much in the process of refining this and doing more research. This upcoming year, we'll kind of do a little more formal research. This past year, we were kind of focusing on working out the rough spots of the curriculum. But we did have some students that were interviewed and commented on the semester contents and the projects. And so that's what I'd like to share with you here. The first takeaway we can find from student A here is that students can connect more with the business world outside of the classroom. This student in particular really enjoyed interviewing, the interview part of the research. For her second project, the one with her part-time job, she interviewed her boss at a bakery and was able to get some good information and really help out with some ideas. I don't know if they'll implement her ideas at the bakery or not, but she felt like what she was doing in class mattered. Furthermore, for her third project, the international project, she was focusing on McDonald's and was really excited to actually get an email back from them. However, one thing that this student didn't share was that it was really difficult to read through some of those CSR policies in English. She said she learned a lot, but then she also admitted that she was kind of checking her understanding of the documents on the McDonald's Japan website as well, so kind of going back and forth and seeing there. So this was a very high-level student, but even she still struggled with some of that CSR language. Student B, some things we can take away from the interview with B was that this project encourages students to engage with global issues. For the second project, she means our third case study, she focused on KFC, and she never thought about where the chicken comes from before. She comments that she was very surprised to know the detail, and it made her think more deeply about eating meat and the impact it has on the earth. So, like I said, engaging with global issues and then also reflecting on their own consumption habits and their own beliefs, I think that's really important. She did notice, she did comment though, that there were very few students in her class. So in that class, there were 3 students, and so each of them had a project on their own, and it was difficult for her to find good ideas. The final takeaway I'd like to share from the interviews was that some companies are easier than others. This may seem obvious, but this student here, he chose his part-time job at a dispatch company for the first project and Netflix for the second project. And he shared that he felt these were less straightforward cases than some of his classmates. It was difficult for him to find clear problems that could be solved, and sometimes research that supported the solutions that he had. However, he commented that he never really thought about CSR much, and he felt like he learned some stuff and will continue to think about it in the future. Now, general takeaways on the semester. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, many business English materials are focused solely on language used to complete those common workplace activities. We're not looking to throw away any of that, any of the old business English activities or curriculum. Instead, we're trying to give them a more meaningful focus and contextualize them in a meaningful way. So, a socially responsible way, right? Why not contextualize those activities in a way that's socially responsible? This can lead to greater levels of student engagement, motivation, and interaction with the real business world outside of the classroom. Now, some things to consider. It can be a very time-consuming process. Like I said earlier, each of those projects was spread out about 4 weeks, and so researching companies can also sometimes lead to dead ends, as interview C mentioned that it was really difficult to find kind of a clear path when they were doing their projects. Also, it's important to note, again, that those official CSR reports can require a high language level and can be very difficult to read sometimes, and so the teacher really needs to be involved in helping students find the main ideas that they need to look for and identifying those things. I think it's also important to note that sustainable development and social responsibility can be incorporated into many different subjects and classes, but business English is also a good fit. So even if you're not teaching business English right now and you want to think about how you can incorporate SDGs into your class, I'm sure there's a way. So I know that was really kind of quick and brief, but I felt it was a really meaningful semester and a meaningful class, and I was excited to do it with my students, and I'm excited to share it with you here. So thank you for making it to the end with me. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please shoot me an email here at travis.past@quansei.ac.jp. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and I'd like to thank Korea TESOL for giving me the opportunity again this year to present and share. I'll hide my face here and I'll show my references at the end of the presentation, but thanks again, and I look forward to hearing from you.